Did you see what David Davis said last night? That the reason everything's going badly is because we got a Remainers Brexit. All right, listen, we're not talking about Brexit today. We're about to talk about people leaving the jobs market, the over 50s, but I'm going to give myself till 10 past, all right? I'm going to give myself 2 minutes and 40 seconds or thereabouts to point a couple of things out to you, right? Iain Duncan Smith, you remember him? Iain Duncan Smith stood up in the House of Commons and laughed. He physically scoffed at the idea that the members of the House of Commons needed time to scrutinise the withdrawal agreement. He physically laughed. He sneered. He smugly sniggered at the very idea, the notion, the suggestion that he personally, never mind everybody else in the House of Commons, needed to scrutinise the withdrawal agreement. They knew that it was oven ready. They knew that the deal was wonderful, and they knew that they were going to get Brexit done. And now, of course, all of these people are poised to vote to undo it and to reopen negotiations. That's how mad it is. The government elected on a promise that it was oven ready. David Frost today tweeting about wanting to see the detail of what's going to be changed. He was tweeting not that long ago about how it was a brilliant deal and he deserved all manner of plaudits and praise because he was delivering something that could only be dreamt of. That's how mad it is now. Duncan Smith laughing at the idea that they didn't understand what was in it. And now the entire parliamentary Tory party whining and squealing about the fact that they didn't really understand what was in it, culminating last night in David Davis claiming that it was a Remainers Brexit. So that oven-ready deal that you voted for because Boris Johnson and David Davis and everybody else told you it was brilliant, it wasn't brilliant at all. Not only was it not oven-ready, but it was actually a Remainers Brexit. Whatever the hell that means. A Remainers leave. These people are as thick as mince, but the only thing bigger than their stupidity is their egos. And that's how you can have Hanan now writing about why we should have stayed in the single market. And David Davis, a man who, if you looked up pompous in a dictionary, there would quite possibly be a picture of him, claiming that it was somehow a Remainers Brexit. The oven-ready deal was not oven-ready at all. It wasn't even bloody defrosted. And Iain Duncan Smith laughing at the idea that they needed to actually scrutinise what was in the bill, what was in the withdrawal agreement, and now desperately trying to disown it. He even talked about 3 months later about the fine print. We've found in the fine print. The same man that stood up in the House of Commons and laughed at the idea that they needed to read it, complaining within months about stuff that he'd found in the fine print. That was about the repayment of debts. 2 quick points, and then I'll tell you what we're talking about this hour. Point 1, the manifesto in 2019, the Conservative manifesto, pledged no renegotiations. It categorically stated there will be no renegotiation of Brexit. That was the con. That was the oven-ready deception, categorically stated. And I can't remember whether it was everyone who stood in 2019 or whether it was simply new MPs standing in 2019. They all had to actually sign a pledge to Boris Johnson and David Frost's deal. They had to put ink to paper, I believe. It may have been verbal, pledging to support the deal, which this week they will be invited to vote to disown. So you have a manifesto pledge never to renegotiate, and they're trying to reopen negotiations now. And you have a public pledge of support for something that they're now being asked to publicly disown. That's how bonkers it is, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Least of all people who encourage you to vote for it because it would make your life better, or it would make food cheaper, or it would make the jobs market healthier, or it would make the economy stronger. 19th out of 20 in the OECD forecasts of economic performance next year. 19th out of 20. The only country below is Russia, which at least has the excuse of having had sanctions imposed upon it from outside, as opposed to Boris Johnson's Brexit Britain, which has imposed sanctions on itself. But we're not going to talk about that. I think you can tell, can't you? I've still got it. I could still do 3 hours a day on this. I mean, so deep is my disgust at what these people have done to our country. I could comfortably. It's quite reassuring to know that. It would be a bit like Neil Diamond ending up on stage and forgetting the words to Sweet Caroline. if I couldn't do 3 hours straight of Brexit-related material, pulling facts out of a hat like a magician would rabbits, if I'd lost that ability, my God, what would that say about the state of the nation? So I'm delighted to report that Neil Diamond can still sing Sweet Caroline, and I can still feel my dander rising as we begin to even list all of the calumnies, the egregious corruptions, the lies and the incompetencies that constitute Boris Johnson's oven-ready Brexit. Unbelievable. But here we are.